Welcome to the Blockleaders podcast with me, Lisa Gibbons. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Zara Zamani, and she is co-founder of Neoki Metaverse, and she is Chief Solutions Officer at Chromaway. We're delighted to have you, Zara, and thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me, and I'm very glad to be here.
Well, we're delighted to learn more about you and about your journey. So if you could take us through the first steps, how did you find the world, stumble upon the world of blockchain?
Yeah, sure. So you might actually find this quite funny, but this goes back all the way to 2013 almost. Yeah. And back then, I had my own fintech business with my back then co-founder, who is still my co-founder in Neoki, Hamid Azarek, and we were really active in providing fintech solutions, and mainly around Middle East and North Africa. And I have an elder brother who is a beauty surgeon. And one day we were just, having a coffee with each other, and he told me, you know what? You're actually in fintech business, and I heard about this fraud fintech solution that is coming up, and all these, money launderers or drug dealers are using it, and it's called Bitcoin. So to just giving you a heads up. So he was giving me a heads up, and I was like, and I got very curious. I was like, okay, now I really need to learn about this. And I started, I found a white paper, a Bitcoin white paper, and I started reading about it. And I got fascinated by the technology behind it. I was like, this is what I wanted. Like, this is really what I wanted. Because originally, I am a person who enjoys having an impact on people's life. I really enjoy that, right? Probably even more than actually changing my own life. It just makes me much happier. But I'm not a politician, and I'm not an activist. But if I wanted to make a change in the world, it had to be through technology, because I'm a technologist. And when I read about blockchain, I was like, this is my technology, right? This is the technology that I can make a change. And then I fell in love, of course. I started working with it. I started reading a lot for about 2 years. It was a lot of learning and, experiencing in the world of crypto. And like everyone else, starting the journey with being a Bitcoin maximalist, and then learning about it and, wanting to do more. And then when the smart contracts, Ethereum smart contracts were launched, I jumped on it. I was like, yeah, this is my opportunity now to start building. And then since then, it's been building, and of course, a lot of failure, but also quite some success.
And what about that's really interesting, Zara. And what about the scalability of blockchain? Is that what it was appealing to you initially, or was there other factors? There was obviously loads of factors, but what were the main factors that stood out to you that you could utilize yourself?
I think, of course, when we got into, bigger solutions like in healthcare, etc., the scalability was more highlighted. But at the beginning, it was for me building a solution that would allow democratizing different spaces, right? The whole idea of democratization, decentralization, transparency, and fighting against corruption was what it attracted me most, right? And I knew that it was too early in 2015 to start talking about, world dominating solutions for blockchain, because it was still maybe even today's, right? Because the technology is still maturing up. But I knew that I had a belief in it. I knew that it will someday reach that point. But at the beginning, it was more, finding very niche, small applications, real world applications for it, because there was also a lot of research. It was at research phase still. And then, of course, eventually, like the first application I built, the first DApp was in travel industry, because there was a lot of, I was also before that in travel tech, and I knew there's a lot of bureaucracy around license checking between travel partners, and that's a very time-consuming process. And travel industry is a very seasonal industry. So if you miss the season, you basically lost the year, and they have to wait for the whole next year for the next high season to come. And so that was the first step. So to basically network.
Okay. You're back.
Yeah. So it was a private blockchain network, 15 partners that they could. And it was a smart contract that would check their licenses and real time contract each other and make payments through crypto. And but of course it was shut down because majority of the governments at the time were really afraid of crypto. It wasn't regulated. I don't blame them. They were really scared. They were skeptical. Some of them are still skeptical.
Yeah.
So some of them haven't really moved forward yet. But so that was the first step, and then eventually built more steps in healthcare, supply chain, and solar energy distribution, water consumption, sustainability, and then eventually now a lot of gaming, fashion, and metaverse projects. Yeah.
Amazing. It's such broad experience that you have. No wonder you're a visionary on Entrepreneur Magazine. I was reading all about you. But I do think that broad experience, the technology is so applicable to various industries, to make an impact. So it's fascinating. So based on what you've just said in the real world applications, let's dive into Neoki a little bit. What is Neoki for people out there who don't know?
Neoki is an open world multi-metaverse platform, right? But then I think we have to. A lot of people talk about building metaverses today, including myself, right? But we have to look into what is the reason behind. Like, what do I want to say with Neoki? What does Neoki want to offer? Generally speaking, because of my life experiences of working in 12 different countries, I've worked in really challenged countries, and I also worked in rich countries, right? And I've seen how unfair the world can be, really. And a lot of this unfairness, like I come originally from Iran myself. I left Iran when I was a teenager, and a lot of people think that she worked hard, she got where she needed to, or she would deserve to. Yes, true. But a lot of people worked harder than me, right? But they didn't have the opportunity, right? Or a lot of people even today work really much harder than I, and they don't have the opportunity. And so this was always something I wanted to change, right? I wanted to make sure that people get access to services regardless of what geopolitical limitations they have, right? And it was always really frustrating for me to see that. But also on the other hand, there was a lot of discussion around, world of design being unfair, because my other co-founder, Hamid, was coming from the architecture and design space. And he was telling me about all this, premium brands dominating this space and giving less opportunities to younger designers, or premium designers really dominating the economy of this space, and how difficult it is, or how almost impossible it is, for example, from a young artist in Algeria, let's say, just gonna give it an example, right? To shine and shows her or his talent compared to a young artist in Paris, right? And then also plus, of course, coming from a typical Persian family, that everyone has to be a doctor, right? You either have to be a medical doctor or an engineering doctor. So I happened to become the engineering doctor, not to disappoint the family. But I think I always think I could potentially be an artist myself, like a fashion designer. I love doing that. And I think that one of the major reasons the majority of the families don't want their kids to go around it is because artists are poor. And I never understand why. Like, why are they? But someone else is actually getting rich because of their art and talent. But they are not included in the economy of their own talent. And I found this very unfair. So Neoki is actually going to change that. So the vision for Neoki is to democratize the world of design, make sure that, we eliminate as many intermediaries as possible, directly connect brands and designers and artists, but also give a voice to younger artists around the world, and connect them to brands. Let them launch their own brands. Let them build their own name and around their talent. And also include users, right? A lot of us, and now, for example, I won't be a fashion designer anymore. It's probably too late for me, but I would still probably
never too late.
Fun. Yeah, exactly. But maybe in Neoki, when I start practicing my talent, and that is actually the space for a lot of people who think they could actually have a talent to show. And I'm sure if you ask people around you, all of us have people in our family, friends, that they would make amazing fashion designer, or they would make an amazing artist. They never found the opportunity, and they went different directions, right? So of course, some of them might also succeed in different directions, but this is where you could actually practice those hidden talents for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with you and everything you're saying there. My mother-in-law is a poet and a writer. And I said, do you have any advice for me? I do a little bit of poetry on the side, a lot of writing actually, but a little bit of poetry. And she said, start early. Don't be afraid to start, because life gets in the way. You feel like, and conforming to society gets in the way, exactly. So is Neoki providing, the aim at Neoki is to provide a space for people to explore those creative passions that they have?
Yeah, definitely. Like Neoki is all about creating your own community, right? Creating a community where you can belong and you can talk to and you can showcase your talent, right? This community can either be, normal, average users, or it could be brands, it could be investors, it could be premium designers, could be education centers, right? So the way you build your community, of course, is up to you, but Neoki provides all sorts of tools for you to be able to build all of these communities, and one of the examples is my mom is a psychologist. She's a professor at the university, right? But when I was a child, she had so much love for fashion that she actually had she ran a fashion house for 15 years. And She was a fashion designer simultaneously, like alongside her work. And I think the love of fashion for me comes from there, because when I was a child, I was in charge of the purchase department. So I had to go and buy all the different colors of strings and buttons and make the buttons and make sure that I clean the fashion house every night as well. But generally, I think I always think if my mom would have access to the right community back then, she would actually make much more successful person as a fashion designer than a psychologist. She's successful as a psychologist, but I'm sure she would be a world changer as a fashion designer.
Oh, amazing. So you're inspired by your mom. That's lovely. Yeah. Really, really lovely. Yeah. And in terms of Neoki, you mentioned community there is so important to you and to Neoki as a brand in itself. And they're very engaged, the Neokiers. You go into the Telegram group, you go into the channel, you're like, wow, they're really participating in what's going on. How important do you feel community is to Web3 and blockchain and growing metaverse platforms like Neoki?
It's extremely important. I think what Web3 allows us is to connect to like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And that is that is then the base of the community you build, right? So all we need to do is to create awareness, that this is our mission. A lot of people think, okay, now you're launching a Web3 project. So, okay, great. Then you're going to have a token and you're going to get it listed. And then, so it's a lot about the economy. But the reality is a Web3 project is a lot about your values, mm-hmm. right? Everyone wants to be part of a higher cause. And by including people, by giving a feeling to people that, by being part of this community, you are actually being part of a higher cause. And that makes people really happy and satisfied. And I think community is the key to success of every Web3 project.
Yeah, again, I would really agree with you on that. And you speak and attend a lot of events. We were talking about it earlier, and you're a woman of travel that never stops. You're always on the go in transit everywhere. So how, give us some insights into your experience at the blockchain events or conferences that you take part in, and why do you do that?
Oh, yeah, of course. I have also had a very interesting journey of speaking in different events, right? It started quite early for me, around 2016 in the world of crypto. But then back then, it was a very totally different audience, right? I remember it started from extremely skeptical audience. Like I used to be literally like, of course, verbally attacked by, people sitting, oh no, this is fraud, this is a scam, all the way to now events that are, the audience is, of course, very, very different. It's been like 7 years now, of course. But I remember in 2016, I came down the stage in an event that I was speaking about blockchain. And there was this guy who came to me and asked me about my education. And I said, well, I'm an engineer, dual degree engineering, electrical electronics and petroleum engineering. And he was like, but you're an engineer. You couldn't find job. So for him, I couldn't find jobs. I went to a fraud industry, right? But regardless, that was exactly the day I knew that I should not quit. Mm-hmm. This space, more than anything else, needs educators, needs people to educate. And for years, I think I can say up to even 2021, most of my time was spent on educating people. Really, I offered hundreds of free education courses. Like I did a lot of educational courses for companies, for individuals, mentorship programs to mentor people to come to this space and, educating people. And then from 2021 onwards, when the space was, I would say NFTs did a very good job for this space. I think after NFTs, I was okay. There were a lot more educators in this space. Then I could focus on actually building more. But I think for so many reasons, it's extremely still necessary for us to do that. Because this space is still a very young space, and people want to trust us. People want to start the builders. They want to see the builders. Like, if you just sit at home and close the door and say, okay, I'm building, people need to trust me. No, that's not how it works. You're still dealing with real people, and they still want to see you, and they still want to trust you, right? Mm-hmm. And they also want to learn from you. So you a lot of things that we who have been in this space for a long time, we know, and we think that this by default should be something everyone knows. When you go to these events, you're surprised that people really don't know that. And people get so happy when they learn new stuff from us. And then, of course, this is how you build a relationship, you build a trust. But then also as a woman, I think it's extremely necessary for me to be there, to represent other women and, to just be a role model. And that is something that I have heard millions of times from girls that, they look up to me and they find me as a role model, and they stepped into this space because of me, and they're so happy. And that makes my day. Every time I receive messages like that, I think it makes my day. So as a builder and as a woman, I think it's extremely necessary, and I will continue to do that, even though it's frustrating and tiring. It's exhausting, but it's amazing to meet new people all the time, and to meet other builders and to see how this whole space is growing every year is amazing.
Yeah, and I had the same experience as you. I spoke at a technology conference last year in London about NFTs, explaining what is an NFT, like very basic, why we, 10 questions and what you would use an NFT for in the future, what the potential of NFTs. And it was interesting because I asked a question at the start of the talk, and I just said, hands up who has bought an NFT or created an NFT before, and it was 2 out of 400 people. Yeah. Two out of 400. I was shocked, but also kind of delighted, because I was there. Yeah. I was like, I'm here, and I'm showcasing this new emerging technology that's going to be life changing for some people, and possibly even here in the audience. So I agree with you about events. It's important that we're just out there educating all of the time. And my next question, you just answered it, because it was about being a woman in technology, or a woman in blockchain, and how important it is for us to help each other. But how would you see that we can help each other a little bit more, help each other succeed in this space?
I think generally, definitely, we can 100% smooth each other's path in this space, right? It has not been easy for me to come. I mean, I always say crypto space, blockchain space is the marriage of finance and tech, because it started with crypto, right? Mm-hmm. And finance and tech both are extremely male-dominant industries. And now we have the baby of them being blockchain space, right? So, and if we don't stick here, and if you're not resilient enough, we are in danger of really not having much women in this space at all. And so, but everything I went through, it's not necessary for everyone else to go through the same. It's not necessary for the younger girls to go through this. And I totally disagree, because there is a lot of mentality that, I went through all of this to become who I am today, and they need to go through this hardship too. No, I don't agree with that. You can be a mentor, and you can tell them how to pivot their way, and, make it smoother for them, support them, and, make sure that you share your knowledge, you share your experience. I have done that a lot, but I have to say that getting to C-level, and then, growing in the C-level in crypto space is the difficulty became 100 times more. Mm-hmm. Because when the higher you climb the career ladder, mm-hmm. the more difficult it becomes as a woman, right? Mm-hmm. Because then you also have less support there. So it's a lot of things is on yourself alone. So you have to really find your own way out of it. But then what I have done a lot in educating girls in, making sure that they step into this space in different roles, in technical roles, non-technical roles, etc. But what I am now focusing a lot is to get women into this space as investors. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because that is what we're almost zero. We're almost zero compared to, statistically, right? So, and that is what we were actually talking over this long weekend with my co-founder in Neoki to provide, to have some innovative investment offers only for women. Mm-hmm. That we would allow women to become investors in this space, and we would give them an opportunity to step up a little bit, because that is my biggest concern now. I go to different investment meetings that I am invited to, either from investors that we are in their portfolios, or that that we have invested in, etc. I have to be very honest. 99% of the time, I'm the only woman in the room, and that is not good. And we are talking about North Europe, which we think is the most gender diverse place in the world. We're talking about Sweden, we're talking about Scandinavia, and and then you can imagine the rest of the world, and that is a big concern for me. So I really want to change that. So I'm really keen on designing innovative investment options for women that would allow them to come into this space, would basically lower the bar for them to step into this space.
That sounds fantastic. I'll be there. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Definitely.
But it does sound fantastic, because I again, same experience as you. I've been at a lot of meetings, and I actually do a lot of content writing for websites and stuff, and you go to their websites and they're asking what's wrong, why aren't they getting more eyes? And I say, you have no women. You're not writing for women. You've left out 50% of the world. Yeah. You're acting like they're non-existent.
Exactly.
It's scary. That is scary. That there's 50% of us that are just not at the table. So I'm so glad that you're in the position you're in, and that we can we can skyrocket you.
Yeah. I know it's going to be. I know it's going to be difficult. I'm expecting actually a difficult road for us at Neoki in that sense, because also, you know, in many ways, when it comes to receiving investment, investors often want to invest in male-only founded investors, and we're not that, right, at Neoki. But also, on the other hand, now I think more than 60% of our advisory board in Neoki are women, and that is also, you know, I know that is going to be a challenge, but I'm willing to take that challenge. And I always say, if I don't dare to take that challenge, having been in this space and having this reputation and credit among the leaders, then who else is going to take it? Like, no one else is going to take it.
Yes, you have to kind of lead the way as a leader in the space. And what piece, speaking of leadership, what piece of advice, if there was like one piece of advice you could give people who are kind of on the outside looking in, and they're considering maybe a move into the space, or considering a new position, they're looking at, and maybe there's some job opportunities, they've left their Web2 company and they're looking around, what advice would you give to them who are just on the outskirts looking in?
I think generally one of the major differences between Web2 and Web3 space is 90% of the companies in Web3, whatever they're building, they're the first ones who are building it, right? These solutions don't exist in the past. And for that reason, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? There's a lot of things that don't come into this industry, and don't expect the founders to know everything, right? Sometimes even they don't know, they want to do something, but they don't even know how, right? And that's why this space has become an extremely collaborative space, but also a space that self-learning and taking initiative matters a lot. So if you want to step into this space, you have to be a person who loves learning, like, you know, who loves to learn things, and, you know, you're a self-learner. And if you're sitting there waiting for someone to come and educate you, that's not going to happen, right? Plus, you have to be a person who takes initiative, right? Go out there, fail fast, and then learn, right? And this is and make sure you collaborate. So what we call in Web2 competition, in Web3 we call it collaboration. In Web3 is all about collaboration. Find like-minded people, find, you know, projects that can complement you, or start learning with people.
That sounds amazing. So collaborate, take initiative, and learn. Just start learning yourself. Exactly. Go onto YouTube, go onto all the channels, and start join the groups, the meetups. Yeah. And what trend? This is my final question. But what trend are you most excited about for the near future? So is it the metaverse, or what's?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm expecting metaverse to grow tremendously. I think the world has not even seen a glimpse of what metaverse is, honestly. Like, everything we have seen is with our Web2 mentality. Regardless of how long we've been in this space, we still are Web2 children, right? Yeah. And if you really want to see what could metaverse and Web3 is, sit with your alpha generation kids, 2010 onwards, and talk to them about future. And that is where you will see the trend going, really, right? And I think metaverse will definitely grow tremendously, and in every space, right? And I saw that recently we had a report from McKinsey that the expected market for Web3 in 2030, which was $250 billion, now is expected to be $5 trillion. And but if I want to be honest, it's way beyond that, because they are trying to still put a definition to metaverse and then calculate a market for it, which is almost impossible. Can you define a country today? Like, can you say what kind of roles exist in Sweden? What kind of roles can live in Sweden? Exactly the same way you cannot do it in metaverse. Mm-hmm. So metaverse is, but then of course it's all about growing that and maturing it up, the concept, etc. And we have not seen millions of innovative business models coming in, new jobs being created. So we haven't seen it. And then combination of metaverse and AI which is my favorite, is I think where we will really grow. And that's why in Neoki, for example, we launched Neokers, the digital ethnic growth, right? And which is a combination of basically blockchain and AI. So Gia, the firstborn, I think she is actually a product of this golden triangle of philosophy, art, and technology coming together in this space. And that is for something, I mean, seeing Metaverse grow and virtual life grow and all these business models and then seeing Web2 IP holders stepping into this space is something I'm quite excited to see how it goes. Because otherwise, they're going to lose the market, and we will probably see a lot of IPs being born in Web3 that we don't know them yet. They're non-existent, but the speed of growth for them is going to be tremendously higher than Web2 IPs.
Yeah, it's so exciting listening to you when you speak about Gia. I just want to end on that, because where will we hear Gia next, and where can we find out more about Neoki next?
Yeah, definitely. So next to hear about Neoki and Gia is on first NFT collection allow list that will be launched soon in 2 weeks. And Gia is actually launching an NFT collection called OG collection. And this OG collection is like golden tickets to Neoki before we actually go for Neoki launch. And it comes with so many different utilities, like lifetime accesses to VIP events and educations and academy, etc. in the Metaverse. Gia, then you can follow Gia on different social media. Gia is speaking in many different events. Gia is, I call her my AI daughter. And Gia is actually replacing me also in many events. So I travel less thanks to Gia.
Thanks, Gia.
Yeah, really, it looks like I really needed her. But so Gia is going, and the interesting thing about the OG collection is that through OG collection, we are actually showing what the real Neoki is. So there will be a call out for designers to join and design accessories for Gia. And then all of these designers involved will always be included in the economy of the NFTs that includes their design. So, and they will have a permanent revenue generation streamlines from this collection. So it's not only for Neoki or only for Gia. It's basically a community revenue generation model.
I'm so excited. It's great. And it is so lovely to have you on, Zara. I love hearing about the project. I love hearing about your background, your story, and how many industries that you've tiptoed into and made an impact in already. So thank you so much for joining us here on Blockleaders today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm also very excited to together change the world.